It is predicted that on July 6th, 2024, former President Jimmy Carter will die. I do realize that no skeptic will believe that predicting the date of Jimmy Carter's death will be anything more than luck or coincidence, given his age of 99 years old and him currently being in a hospice. That is why it is also being predicted that on July 5th, one day before the predicted death of Jimmy Carter, whose name is also James Earl Carter, will be the death of James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader. Jimmy Carter was born in 1924 and will die in 2024 because the 2424th word, 2424th word, in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word Jesus. Jimmy Carter, JC, hints at Jesus Christ. James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King, who also played King Jaffe Jaffer in the movie Coming to America, is king symbolism. JC, Jesus Christ, is the King of Kings. No rational person will be able to conclude that when James Earl Jones dies on July 5th and Jimmy Carter dies on July 6th, as predicted, that it will be a coincidence or random luck. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on July 6th, and that his prophetic funeral, in which Trump will sit next to Obama, will be on July 11th. I am predicting that James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on July 5th. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis on July 22nd. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on July 24th. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on July 25th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on July 26th. I am predicting that on July 27th, 2024, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. July 27th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. July 27th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is probable that on July 27th, Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. July 27th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. July 27th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. I am predicting that on August 2nd, Joe Biden will step down and make Michelle Obama the 47th president. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will make Barack Obama her vice president on August 18th, 2024, and then it is predicted that she will step down and make Barack Obama the 48th president on August 25th. It is predicted that on August 6th, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. I am predicting that on August 10th, Israel will nuke and completely destroy Damascus, Syria. I am predicting that on August 29th, President Trump will die from a heart attack. August 13th will be the date of a catastrophic solar flare from the sun that will knock out the power grid in America that will lead to food shortages. August 15th will be the date of the resurrection rapture, the first of two raptures. The second rapture will be on September 5th. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. If you have already watched this essential introductory information in another video, you can skip ahead 31 minutes. The information in this video is showing how God was pointing to the date July 1st in regards to the predicted death of James Earl Carter, former President Jimmy Carter. The prediction being made in this video that James Earl Carter or Jimmy Carter would die on July 1st is 100% correct. The information in this video is valid. God was pointing overwhelmingly to July 1st, 2024 with Jimmy Carter connections. Not only is the information in these videos that predicted July 1st valid, it is extremely important and must be watched. Through the connections God used to point to July 1st, God told important stories and revealed essential knowledge. These videos must be watched. July 1st ended up being a step in the trail of signs that is 10 days before Carter's predicted funeral at the National Cathedral on July 11th, 2024. There were prophetic signs on July 1st, 2024 that confirmed all of the analysis, and they revealed adding 10 days to July 1st to reach July 11th. I will explain this. Also, it was predicted that Carter's funeral at the National Cathedral would be on July 6th, 2024. It is now believed that the reason why God is pointing to the date July 6th in regards to Jimmy Carter is that this will be the date of his death. July 6th is 5 days after the prophetic signs related to Carter that occurred on July 1st. And July 6th will be 5 days before the predicted date of Carter's funeral. These two sets of 5 days between July 1st and July 6th and July 11th hints at the two sets of 5 commandments in the 10 Commandments, which is the reason why one of the prophetic signs that occurred on July 1st, 2024, pointed to the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which is a romantic comedy movie about do's and don'ts in a relationship. In pointing to this movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, God revealed adding 10 days to July 1st to reach July 11th, the date of Carter's prophetic funeral. The question is, how did God point to this movie, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days? One of the extremely profound ways in which God pointed to July 1st was that it was 1,290 days after the first Israeli took the thing on December 19th, 2020. This was also the day that the leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, took the thing. In the last verses of the prophetic book of Daniel, there is a mention of a period of 1,290 days following the setting up of a spiritual abomination on the Temple Mount. The Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount is a spiritual abomination, as is the Dome of the Rock. In fact, this is a typo. I really, in fact, mean to refer to the Dome of the Rock. The Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock are the two mosques on top of the Temple Mount, but I'm specifically referring to the Dome of the Rock, the golden dome in the iconic images of the Temple Mount, the mosque with the golden dome. Okay, so the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount is a spiritual abomination, and it was completed in 688 AD. 688 AD plus 1,290 years was 1978, the year of the Camp David Accords, that were brokered by President Jimmy Carter. The giving back of the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt with the Camp David Accords was an extreme transgression against God. In the prior verse in Daniel, there is a mention of 1,260 days. 688 AD plus 1,260 years was 1948, the year that Israel was reborn after 19 centuries. In other words, the 1,260-day years connection to 1948 is a second witness that confirms the relevance of adding 1,290 years to 688 AD to get 1978, the big year prophetically for Jimmy Carter. And that is why this number 1,290 is relevant with Jimmy Carter and in context of a spiritual abomination, which is why after the first Israeli and the leader of Israel took the spiritual abomination, which is the thing, was July 1st. And this was one, again, of the ways that God was, extremely profound ways in which God pointed to July 1st in regards to Jimmy Carter. Because of this connection, it was expected that there would be a prophetic sign involving a spiritual abomination and the Antichrist, if Jimmy Carter were to not die on this date. So if Jimmy Carter if it isn't the end of the trail of signs leading to the death of Jimmy Carter, it means that it would be a step, and therefore we would expect a sign involving a spiritual abomination and the Antichrist on this July 1st date. God is demonstrating that Jimmy Carter is symbolic of the first of 7 kings in Bible prophecy. In Revelation chapter 17:11 in the Bible, there is a mention of a series of 7 kings followed by an 8th king. A secondary fulfillment, a secondary symbolic fulfillment of this prophecy, not the primary fulfillment of this prophecy, is Jimmy Carter, who was inaugurated in 77, as in 1977, began a succession of 7 presidents that leads to the identification of the Antichrist, who is the 6th and 8th presidents, and therefore the symbolic 6th and 8th kings in the prophecy. The name Barack Obama is equal to 68 in simple English gematria, which is A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, etc. And therefore, his name in a succession of presidents that begins with Carter, Barack Obama is the 6th president and is predicted to become the 8th president, which is why his name equals 68 in simple English gematria. Trump is the 7th president after Carter was inaugurated in 77, which is why Trump was elected by 77 electoral votes. And on Trump's inauguration day, in the year that ended in the number 7, he was exactly 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. 77 days after his inauguration, Trump launched 59 missiles into Syria. 59 is the 7th super prime number. The 17th prime number is 59, and 17 is the 7th prime number, making 59 the 7th super prime number. Ancient Rome was founded after a period of 7 kings that ended in 509 BC, which is why, incidentally, the reason for the 7 kings in this Bible prophecy is it is because the primary fulfillment of it identifies Rome. Okay, so in ancient Rome, it is widely known in ancient history, or rather, it is widely known that ancient history tells us that ancient Rome was founded after a period of 7 kings that ended in 509 BC. 509 hints at 59, the 7th super prime number. At Carter's funeral, the presidents will be lined up in chronological order, which will point to this prophecy in Revelation about a chronological order of 7 kings, followed by an 8th king. Trump, the 7th king, and Obama, the 8th king, are predicted to sit next to each other at Carter's funeral. In the prophecy, it is said that the 8th king was, is not, and will be again. Obama was the president, is not the president, and it is predicted he will become the president again on August 25th, 2024. The predicted funeral on July 11th will be exactly 509 days after Carter first went into a hospice, and this hints at the succession of kings in Rome that ended in 509 BC. George W. Bush will also be sitting in the row of presidents at Carter's funeral, and Bush will turn 78 years old. In other words, his 78th birthday will be the date it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die, on July 6th. His age of 78 will hint at the 7th and 8th kings in the prophecy. George W. Bush is the 5th king in this fulfillment of the prophecy, and it's only symbolic, and it's a secondary to the primary one, as I said. But George Bush was the 5th king after Carter in this fulfillment of the prophecy, and the prophecy speaks of the first 5 kings being similar and having left the scene before the 6th through 8th kings. As mentioned, on July 1st, it was expected that either Jimmy Carter would die or there would be prophetic signs that provided king and spiritual abomination symbolism. On July 1st, the Supreme Court ruled that the president is entitled to immunity from prosecution for official acts of his duties as president. President Biden is not the symbolic 8th king in this prophecy because he is a puppet of Obama's people in the permanent government ruling class of Democrats in Washington, otherwise known as the deep state. In response to the Supreme Court's decision, acting President Biden delivered a speech about how America was founded on the notion that it would not have kings, which is ironic and prophetic because, like everything the left claims these days, the opposite is true, and Biden, the puppet of Obama and his people, is America's first king dictator. Also, in the Supreme Court's dissenting opinion, Justice Sotomayor, Obama's first appointee, said that America now has a king. She used the word king for America's leader on the date it was expected there would be a symbolic Antichrist king sign. Prior to July 1st, we also expected a sign with spiritual abomination symbolism. On this date, famous Hollywood screenwriter Robert Towne died at the age of 89. Robert Towne died on July 1st, this date that we were expecting a spiritual abomination. And he died at the age of 89. Robert Towne died at 89, exactly 1,711 days after the death of famous Hollywood movie producer Robert Evans died at the age of 89. So they both died at the age of 89. 89 is the 24th prime number. These two men worked together in Hollywood, and their two deaths at the age of 89, which hints at the 24th prime number, hints at Jimmy Carter, who was born in 24, as in 1924, and will die in 24, as in 2024. Jimmy Carter's initials, JC, hint at Jesus Christ, and G2424 in Strong's Greek Bible Concordance is the word Jesus. Robert Towne's death on 7/1, July 1st, 7/1, 1,711 days after the death of Robert Evans, hints at the prophecy in Revelation 17:11 about the 7 kings followed by an 8th king. All right, so the 1,711 days hints at Revelation 17:11, which is why Robert Towne died on the day the Supreme Court Justice said that America now has a king. This hints at the coming Antichrist king, who will be defeated by the King of Kings at his second coming in 2024. If the starting date is not included in the calculation, this period of 1,711 days in between the deaths of Robert Evans and Robert Towne is also 1,710 days, and 171 is the 18th triangular number, and 18 is equal to 6 plus 6 plus 6, and 666 is the number of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. In Bible prophecy, the period of the Antichrist's rule is symbolized by 7 years. Robert Evans is credited with making Paramount Studios a major success after ruling as its chief for 7 years, as in the Antichrist's period of 7 years. Robert Towne won the Academy Award for Best Screenplay for his movie Chinatown, which Robert Evans produced. The movie starred Jack Nicholson, and during its production, Nicholson learned from a reporter that his deceased sister and mother were in reality his mother and grandmother, which was an eerie coincidence given that in the movie, which Nicholson was filming at the time of him learning this, Nicholson's character learns the shocking secret that Faye Dunaway's character is both the sister and the mother of another character as a result of incest with her father at the age of 15. The movie was directed by Roman Polanski, who is known for the sexual relationship he had with a 13-year-old girl. Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, was murdered by Manson family members. Polanski directed the movie Rosemary's Baby, which Robert Evans also worked on. The horror movie Rosemary's Baby is about a pregnant woman who gives birth to the baby Antichrist. In the movie, the baby has the eyes of his father, Satan, and the baby is an abomination. Robert Evans died exactly 2,620 weeks after the release of Rosemary's Baby, and 262 is the 84th semi-prime number. The name Obama is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, and Obama was born, the Antichrist was born, as in Rosemary's Baby's Antichrist birth, on the date 8/4. Therefore, the movie Rosemary's Baby connects to the death of Robert Evans, and his death connects to the death of Robert Towne on the date that it was expected that there would be a prophetic sign involving a spiritual abomination. Robert Evans's last movie that he produced was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which is why it is predicted that Jimmy Carter's prophetic funeral, in which the presidents will be lined up in chronological order, will be 10 days after the death of Robert Towne, which was the same day that the Supreme Court Obama appointee said that America now has a king, as in the Antichrist king, Barack Obama. What is also amazing is that on July 1st, the date that we were expecting a sign involving Jimmy Carter and his death, was the day that the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library announced that for Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday celebration, the library is planning to have a film festival, a movie festival, and the festival will be running from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., which hints at the movies that I just mentioned, including the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. In other words, the 100th birthday celebration with a film festival hints at the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. 100 hints at the number 10. What is also interesting too is that Jimmy Carter set up the Georgia State Film Office after the success of the movie Deliverance during the time that Jimmy Carter was the governor. Georgia went on to become a place where movies are made, and this started when Jimmy Carter was the governor of Georgia. Deliverance hints at the deliverance from the Antichrist of God's faithful through JC, which is why Jimmy Carter's initials, JC, hint at Jesus Christ. Robert Towne got his start in movies through working under Roger Corman. Roger Corman is said to be the Pope of pop cinema, the spiritual godfather of the new Hollywood, and the king of cult. Corman is also known for his Poe cycle of 8 movies. These 8 movies were inspired by 8 different writings of Edgar Poe. Roger Corman hints at how Pope Francis is the 7th king, and how a revived Roman Empire is the 8th king in the primary fulfillment of this prophecy in Revelation regarding the 5th through 8th kings. This is why Roger Corman died 58 days before it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die on July 6th, 2024. In the secondary fulfillment of this prophecy, Obama is the 8th king, and 8 movies in the King of Cults Poe cycle also hints at 4+4 and the 44th president. Robert Towne also wrote the screenplay for the Tom Cruise movie Days of Thunder. The name Barak in Hebrew means lightning. In Luke 10:18 in the Bible, Jesus said that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. The name Barack Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak means lightning, Bama means high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven, as it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place, and O, in the language Jesus would have spoken, Aramaic, is the word from. And so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, knowing that it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. Days of Thunder was released on June 27, 1990, exactly 34 years and 1 month before what is predicted to be Seven Thunders Day on July 27, 2024. July 27, 2024 will be a symbolic beginning of the 7 thunders of judgment that are mentioned in the book of Revelation. In other words, 7/27 or July 27, 2024 will be the beginning of the Days of Thunder. The 7 thunders will be supernatural phenomena such as demons pretending to be aliens and the demonic possession of the masses. 34 years and 1 month hints at 341, the 110th semi-prime number, and 110 is symbolic of the walls of security of Jericho that collapsed in God's judgment. Joshua, who led the Israelites before the walls collapsed, died at the age of 110, and this is why the Twin Towers that collapsed on 9/11 were 110 stories high. 34 years and 1 month is also 409 months, and 409 is the 40 plus 40th prime number, which hints at the 44th president, whose name means lightning. And again, this 409 months is a connection from the release of the movie Days of Thunder. To confirm his signs and connections, God pairs the numbers 23 and 44 together, as the 44th president is also the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. Robert Towne's Days of Thunder cost 2 times 30 million, which hints at 23, to make, and it was released 44 days before the release of Robert Towne's sequel to his Chinatown movie, The Two Jakes. More than a decade after the release of the movie Chinatown, Robert Towne and Robert Evans collaborated again on a sequel named The Two Jakes. It is said that The Two Jakes faced a troubled production and went through several years of development hell. The name The Two Jakes hints at the two Antichrists. The two Roberts that made The Two Jakes further confirms this. A sequel movie is symbolic of the second presidency, a sequel for Barack Obama, the second of the two Antichrists in Bible prophecy. The Two Jakes was directed by Jack Nicholson. This hints at the Antichrist directing the persecution of the saints in order for God to purge them of their Nicolaitan doctrine that the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians hold and practice, and that Jesus said would come to make war on with the sword of his mouth, on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this Nicolaitan doctrine. Make sure that you watch the 23 church signs video on this channel and read the links that will be in the description box below this video. The reason for the coincidence in the names of Robert Towne winning the Academy Award for Best Screenplay for the movie Chinatown is that Robert Towne and Chinatown point to China. China is symbolic of the red dragon in Bible prophecy that is a metaphor for Satan and his representative, the Antichrist. There is another prophecy in Revelation in which the second of the two Antichrists, Barack Obama, is said to speak like a dragon. This is because Barack Obama and his allies on the political left constantly speak lies while accusing their opponents of lying and doing the very things that they are doing, which is textbook communist strategy that Barack Obama learned from his days studying radical, subversive, leftist political strategy. The truth is, Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization, which bombed the Capitol building in Washington in 1983. The organization was disbanded in 1985, the year that Obama moved to Chicago to further pursue radical leftist politics. The purpose of this prediction in this video, that is from God, is to prove what I have just said. The reason why the name China is pointed to through Robert Towne and Chinatown is because it hints at the movie The Manchurian Candidate. In the 1962 movie The Manchurian Candidate, the protagonist's name is Marco, and the movie was directed by John Frankenheimer, who was said to be the last of the dictatorial style of directors. The name Frankenheimer hints at Frankenstein, and he also directed Island of Dr. Moreau, about genetic experiments that create half-human, half-animal creatures. The production of the movie Island of Dr. Moreau is said to have been the most cursed movie ever made, and interesting documentaries have been made about this. The name Marco and Frankenheimer from the Manchurian Candidate hints at the mark of the Antichrist that changes a person's chromosomes, making them an Obama nation, as in abomination. The mark of the Antichrist has inserted snake venom chromosomes into people's chromosomes, which is what is alluded to with the half-human, half-animals in Island of Dr. Moreau. This makes these people an abomination, as in Obama nation. The number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, and Frankenheimer's The Manchurian Candidate cost $2.2 million to make. John Frankenheimer died exactly 22 years before it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die on July 6, 2024. At Carter's funeral, Joe Biden will sit in the row of presidents, followed by Trump and Obama. Biden and his brain dementia is symbolic of the character in The Manchurian Candidate that is brainwashed by communist operatives within the US government and who isn't fully aware of what he is doing. Obama is symbolic of the communist Manchurian Candidate in the movie The Manchurian Candidate, who is waiting for the death of someone in order to gain the president's office and usher in an authoritarian regime in the US. This awaited death will be the predicted death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash on July 22nd, 2024, which will be 4 times 4 days, which hints at the 44th president, after the predicted death of Jimmy Carter. The movie The Manchurian Candidate was released 446 days after the birth of Barack Obama. 446 hints at the 44th president and the 46th president. And the characters in the movie The Manchurian Candidate point to these presidential candidates. Hello. A few amazing prophetic signs occurred on June 27th, 2024, which I'll briefly explain in this video. And these include, I'll just explain it as we go, but it confirms that James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die 4 + 4 days after these signs. And it confirms what has been predicted for July 27th, 2024, the date that we could call Revelation chapter 9 day, or the 5th trumpet day of the 7 trumpets in the book of Revelation, the 5th trumpet judgment. We could call it Demons Pretending to be Aliens Day, Pope Francis Day, the beginning of the Antichrist system day, and on, given what God has been communicating about this date. Well, on June 27th, King James, that's his nickname, LeBron James, the famous basketball player, goes by the nickname King James, who has won 4 NBA championships, and who wears jersey number 23, which makes this a pairing of 23 and 44, because, as I will explain here, because he, in this sign, became the 4th professional athlete to play on a team with his son. All right? So that gives us 2 4s. That's what I was getting at, and that hints at the 44. Okay, and this is a typo. It should say 23. God pairs 23 and 44 together to confirm his signs, patterns, and connections. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And when we think about it, one simple way in which he would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 23 and 44, because the 44th president is the basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. Speaking of basketball, we have a basketball sign. And king also hints at the Antichrist king, the basketball president, who wore jersey 23 just like LeBron James. And that is only the beginning of the parallels between LeBron James and Barack Obama. The fact that they both wore, number 23. And LeBron James is considered to be a GOAT. There is a controversy, the debate, as to whether LeBron James or Michael Jordan are the GOATs of basketball, greatest of all time. Coincidentally, both of them wear jersey number 23. And Michael Jordan is from Chicago, which points to Barack Obama. Well, anyway, so we have with LeBron James, the King James, having won 4 NBA championships, making this sign here in which he became the 4th professional athlete to play on a team with his son, a prophetic sign that hints at 44, which pairs with the 23 that confirms that it is a sign. 4 NBA championships and the 4th athlete to play with his son. And what I mean by athlete is because we are talking about major professional sports, and only 3 other times has a father played on the same team with his son. Okay, so LeBron James's son, Bronny James, on June 27th, was selected 55th overall in the NBA draft. Bronny James played 1 year of college basketball and averaged 5 points in 5 times 5 games. Okay, so he was selected 55th, and that was after his year of college basketball in which he averaged 5 points in 5 times 5 games. In the Bible, a 30-year period is symbolic of a king. This King James sign occurred 30 days before the 5th trumpet 5G day. All right, that's why he was selected 55th on this day. 30 days, because 30 is symbolic of a king in the Bible. And we're talking about King James's son. All right, that's the confirmation. And this sign involves King James because the sign is about how they will be playing together on the same team. It's not only about Bronny James. So we have, anyway, that confirming the 30 days. And this is why he was selected 55th and averaged 5 points in 5 times 5 games before declaring eligibility, before declaring he would be in the draft, that he would forego any more college basketball. Okay, so there you have it. And so that's confirmation for 5th trumpet 5G day. And what do I mean by 5G? God is communicating that 5G frequencies will activate the mark of the Antichrist, which is inside people who have taken the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing. And you know what I'm talking about. And this will induce the activation of the components that are in people now. It will induce demonic possession. That's where all of this is leading to. All right, King James, who has won 4 NBA championships, became the 4th athlete to play with his son 4 plus 4 days before the predicted death of James Earl Jones, who is king symbolism. He was the voice of the Lion King. He played King Jaffe Jaffer in Coming to America. In fact, in Coming to America, which is a play on the 2 because it's the number 2, in other words, the sequel, he played a dead and dying king. He also read the audiobook James Earl Jones reads the King James Bible. And also he was the voice of Darth Vader, which is Antichrist king symbolism. And also, he was born near the birthplace of the king of rock and roll in northern Mississippi. All right, now, so that confirms the 4+4 days, right? The 4 NBA championships and him becoming the 4th athlete to play with his son. Now, as I've explained in other videos, Jimmy Carter is also a symbol for a king. He was inaugurated in 1977, and in a secondary sub-level fulfillment of the prophecy in Revelation chapter 17 regarding the 7th and 8th kings, Jimmy Carter started this count of 7 kings, culminating in President Trump as the 7th king, but that's not the purpose of this prophecy. It is just a clever way in which God to use this prophecy in a second way. I hope that's understood. God is the master creative artist, and he can use all kinds of symbolism and ways in which he's not... Okay, so you get the idea. It's just symbolism, okay? So Jimmy Carter started a count of 7 kings, having been inaugurated in 77, leading up to the 7th king in this particular symbolic way of Trump, who was inaugurated at the age of 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old, 77 days before he launched 59 missiles into Syria, and 59 is the 7th super prime number, and on and on. And he won by 77 electoral votes, etc. So, anyway, this sign here with King James having won 4 NBA championships and becoming the 4th athlete to play with his son, 4+4 days before the death of James Earl Jones, who is king symbolism. This is also 4 days before the predicted death of Jimmy Carter, who is also symbolic of a king, whose death is predicted to be 4 days before the death of James Earl Jones, who is some king symbolism also. And Jimmy Carter's full name is also incidentally James Earl Carter. And we are talking about LeBron James and Bronny James. So this Bronny James, LeBron James sign, in which LeBron James became the 4th player to play with his son, is 4 days before the predicted death of James Earl Carter. And by the way, the most famous line in cinematic history is when James Earl Jones said as Darth Vader, "I am your son," which hints at the Son of God, Lord Jesus Christ. All right. And by the way, the Antichrist king is the 44th president. That's the reason here for the 4+4 days before the death of James Earl Jones, who is king symbolism, 4+4 days after this King James sign, which I just mentioned earlier, is pointing to the Antichrist, the basketball president. King James plays for the Los Angeles, as in fallen angels, which is what the 5th trumpet is in the book of Revelation, when the key opens the bottomless pit for the fallen angels to come out of and cross over into the earthly realm. Okay, so King James plays for Los Angeles. Ken Griffey Sr. wore jersey number 30, which again is king symbolism, the number 30. When he and his son, Ken Griffey Jr., hit back-to-back home runs for Seattle, which the team plays in King County, by the way, in Los Angeles, which hints at fallen angels, on the date September 14th, 1990. Ken Griffey Jr. encouraged fans to exit the Kingdome, as in the Antichrist kingdom, after a 4.8, as in the 48th president, earthquake, because Barack Obama is predicted to become the 48th president, earthquake hit King County in the 42nd, as in the Antichrist, state, because the number 42 is associated with the period of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. This earthquake was exactly 5 times 5 years before the record-setting SpaceX Dragon crew splashed down on Earth, which hints at Revelation 12, fallen angels to Earth, that's described in Revelation 12. Which, okay, the splashdown of the Dragon crew that broke the record for a number of days in space, at 84 days, they tied it at 84 days, which hints at Obama, which is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, and Obama was born on the date 8/4. Okay, so the date of the splashdown, which was 5 times 5 years after the earthquake, exactly, marked, okay, May 2nd, 2021 marked the beginning of the final 42 months, which is also 1,260 days in the Bible prophecies, before Christ's second coming and his kingdom on earth. I should say his kingdom. Okay, and that's again why the connection to the earthquake in the King County in the kingdom. All right? Because it connects to the end of the Antichrist kingdom and the beginning of the kingdom of Christ at his second coming. Okay, and home run balls that are hit high and then fall back to earth are symbolic of fallen angels, which is why, again, the back-to-back home runs were hit in Los Angeles. Okay, and this home runs symbolizing fallen angels is especially true when it's in Los Angeles, as I just mentioned. And that happened again on September 14th, 1990, exactly 1,763 weeks before King James and the Los Angeles Lakers selected his son with the 55th overall pick. 1,763 is the 508th semi-prime number, and this hints at the 5th and 8th kings in prophecy in Revelation. Okay? And in this prophecy, a secondary sub-level of fulfillment of this prophecy is Barack Obama as the 8th king. Okay? But the prophecy is really, the first level of it is that the 7th king is Pope Francis, who will announce on July 27th, 2024, at the beginning of the 5th trumpet, that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world, thus giving him instantly power over the governments of the world. It was announced on August 25th, 2023, that Bronny James had suffered a cardiac arrest when he collapsed onto the basketball court 32 days earlier. The 32nd prime number is 131. So he collapsed, I believe it was on July 23rd. I could be wrong, but anyway, it was 32 days before it. But the 32nd prime number, before the announcement that the reason why he collapsed, because it was not mentioned officially until 32 days later. But the number 32 is the 32nd prime number is 131. And that's why God uses the number 32 in his signs, which, by the way, is equal to the name Obama in simple English gematria. All right, and it's also 4 times 8, and Obama will be the 48th president. But also, the mark of the Antichrist is symbolized by this because the 32nd prime number is 131, and the 131st word in the Greek concordance of Strong's is the word blood disease, which is what a person gets after they have taken the mark of the Antichrist. Okay? August 25th, 2023 was exactly 44 weeks before it was announced that Bronny James would play with his father, King James, in Los Angeles for the Lakers. By the way, the Lakers are originally from the 32nd state, Minnesota, the land of lakes, which is why the name Lakers. They ended up moving to Los Angeles. The 44th president, Antichrist, who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist, will be thrown into the lake of fire. I should say the 44th president, Antichrist, who is the basketball president. All right? Bronny James collapsed onto the basketball court exactly 29 weeks. Okay, now 29 hints at 9/11. If God were to symbolize 9/11 with two numbers, it would be 2 and 9, because 2 is 1 plus 1. And so Bronny James collapsed onto the court exactly 29 weeks, which hints at Revelation 9:11 and King Abaddon, because Revelation 9:11 is the symbolic verse of Revelation chapter 9 about the fifth trumpet and the fallen angels who are led by King Abaddon, the king of destruction. All right, so that's why the 29 weeks exactly after Damar Hamlin, the football player, collapsed onto the football field in Cincinnati while playing the Cincinnati Bengals in front of a national TV audience. All right, now the Bengals and in Cincinnati, because this hints at Rome. The city Cincinnati is named after the Society of Cincinnatus, which George Washington was a member of, and that is named after the Roman general Cincinnatus. And Cincinnati also has another connection to Rome, because in the Garden of Eden, which is a park, the name of a park in Cincinnati, there is a statue that is the symbolic statue of Rome. It's the Capitolini or the Capitoline statue. I believe I'm saying it correct, but I could be wrong. But it's the statue of the wolf that's breastfeeding a couple of baby wolves underneath it. I don't know the symbolic meaning of that, but that is the statue that symbolizes Rome. And it was donated to Cincinnati from Mussolini during his 10th year of his dictatorship. And that's why on the statue is an X. It's the Roman numeral for the number 10. But in God's signs, the letter X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, which will be used to persecute Christians. And in ancient Rome, Christians were persecuted in the Colosseum. And they were persecuted with tigers and lions. Bengals are the biggest breed or species of tigers. And the Colosseum is symbolized by a football stadium. All right, and so that's why Damar Hamlin collapsed during a nationally televised Monday Night Football game while playing the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, and went to the hospital in Cincinnati, etc. And we all know why he collapsed. And he wanted to say so in an interview, but held his tongue, because you're not allowed to talk about the truth. In today's totalitarian society, just like you weren't able to talk about the truth during the Mussolini totalitarian period. And a totalitarian dictatorship is different than classical dictatorships, where in a classical dictatorship, the strongman rules through fear. In a totalitarian regime, 30% of the population are hypnotized. They are hypnotized by the leader, and there is a cult going on in which they enforce their ideology, and no one is allowed to talk about anything that contradicts it. Otherwise, they are in massive trouble. Not only will they be censored, but they will be killed. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen very soon in America because of the cult of today's political left. The new totalitarian regime that is emerging that will soon have its leader, the Antichrist. And this cult will persecute God's people through the mark of, well, it already has been persecuting God's people through the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing in its current form. It does not need an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship, or supposedly a new age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why most quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is that it is judgment for this particular doctrine, dispensationalism, which is the package that free grace and Calvinism comes in, which is the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day, which Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. And Calvinism and free grace lead to once saved, always saved. In case you don't know what Calvinism and free grace is. It's, in other words, evangelical culture. There will be those that say, well, I don't need to know about doctrine, I just love Jesus. Well, first of all, our love for the Lord is deepened with the deeper our knowledge is. But also, if you don't know doctrine, you probably do have this doctrine, which Jesus hates, because you aren't educating yourself on how the majority have the wrong doctrine, the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day, which the Lord has overwhelmingly confirmed to be what I have just said. And the prediction in this video, the purpose of it is to prove this. Believe me, I know far better than you the reason for this prediction that is from God. It is to prove the things that I have said, the controversial things, which one, the beginning of the 1,260 days, which ends on October 12th, 2024, on the day of the second coming, the Day of Atonement. That's a fact. And it will be proven when the prediction comes to pass. And this is the purpose of the prediction, to prove that this is God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections that is only being explained on this channel. And this big picture of signs, patterns, and connections confirms these things. It is the purpose of the big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is to communicate this knowledge. And I know the reason for this big picture of signs, patterns, and connections. And the other thing that it is confirming is the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day and the identity of the mark of the Antichrist. Obviously, it also confirms the identity of the Antichrist, but this should be known from Bible prophecy a long time ago. The second of the two Antichrists is Pope Francis, and it has been known for 2,000 years that the first of the two Antichrists will be a Pope, Pope Francis. Anyway, so what I was saying, and by the way, the commonly held objections that people have regarding how this couldn't be the mark of the Antichrist, although it's not necessary because the prediction will prove that you are incorrect, but the objections are answered at the end of the must-watch snake bite video on this channel. All right, now back to what I was saying here. I was talking about how the day that the father son of the Griffeys, the day that they hit the back-to-back home runs, the father wearing number 30, symbolic of king. That day was exactly 1,763 weeks before the sign involving the son of LeBron James, Bronny James, being selected 55th overall in the draft, okay? Again, 1,763 is the 508th semi-prime number, and this hints at the 5th and 8th kings in the prophecy and revelation. Okay, so now, I already talked, sorry, I was already down in this paragraph, sorry. I was talking about Damar Hamlin, that's right. Okay, now he, as I was saying, the reason why he collapsed in Cincinnati, I explained that. All right, now, Damar Hamlin wears number 3, and Bronny James wears number 6, which hints at 36, which is the number God uses to hint at 666, the number of the Antichrist, because it hints at 3 6s, but also 6 times 6, and also the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way up to 36 equals 666. Now, Bronny James wears number 6, which hints at 2 times 3, which hints at 23, the number that his father wears. And this sign occurred 4 plus 4 days before the predicted death of King James Earl Jones. And that's a pairing of 23 and 44, which I believed I mentioned earlier as being what God uses to confirm the signs and connections. So that's another confirmation, by the way. Now, Bronny James is equal to 136 in simple English gematria. 136 is the 4 times 4th, in other words, 16th, triangular number. Okay, and this too confirms the 4 plus 4 days. But this also confirms the exact 44 weeks between the announcement of his cardiac arrest and the announcement that he will play with King James for the Los Angeles Lakers, which in turn is 4 plus 4 days to the date it is predicted that King James, James Earl Jones, who is King symbolism, will die. 30 years is symbolic of a king. This King James sign is 30 days before the Revelation 9:11 day and King Abaddon day. This will be the day of a symbolic beginning of the demonic possession of the masses. Something will happen that will symbolize this. I don't know what it will be. I'm not saying that everyone is going to become demonically possessed on the state. I'm saying this is the beginning of something. Probably Pope Francis saying that aliens have arrived and have made him the world ambassador. But somehow it will be the beginning of the Antichrist beast system. Okay? And the 5th trumpet. Demons crossing over into the earthly realm. Anyway, this demonic possession will be induced by 5G frequencies in the brain. Bronny James was selected 55th after averaging 5 points in 5 times 5 games for the Trojans. Bronny James played for the Trojans. The things, the marks of the mark of the Antichrist are the Trojan horse, as is Joe Biden and the basketball president, a Trojan horse. On this same day was the Trump-Biden debate. Okay, so on the day of this prophetic sign involving LeBron James' son, 55th after averaging 5 points over 5 times 5 games, was the Trump-Biden debate. And Biden is a Trojan horse. He is a puppet for Satan. It's quite obvious. Just for example, when he was campaigning, he had on his podium the number you could text to donate money to his campaign. It was 3030. 30303. And above it was the number 2020, because he was campaigning for 2020 president. Well, 2020 divided by 30303 is 666. All right, anyway, let's move on. That's just something to just throw out there. But just if someone who is wise and discerning can tell from a myriad of things that he has done and said that he is actually possessed in some way, I don't mean that he's not fully himself anymore, but he is definitely spirit of Antichrist. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so in the debate, the highlight was the moment when Biden had a bad stumble in his speaking, to which Trump said he could not understand Biden's last sentence, and he didn't think Biden understood it either. This moment, the highlight of the debate, the big moment, occurred at 9:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It clearly demonstrated that Biden has dementia, which was designed by God so that he would ultimately step down and make his old pal Barack Obama the president again. And I knew this even before the referendum in 2020. I knew that God made Biden the nominee for this purpose, for him to step down. Even before he picked his running mate, it was obvious that this would be the way that Obama would become the president again. It is through Biden being as old as he is. Because even back then, he was showing signs of dementia and was making all kinds of gaffes, which is why his handlers barely let him out of his room during the campaign. All right? And why did they do that? Because they want Biden. They don't want anyone else. They want Biden. Why do they want Biden? Because he's Barack Obama. Because he's of Barack Obama. He was his vice president. It's because the DEEP people, the DEEP state, the second government, the permanent government class, want to remain in their jobs and in power, and they're all Obama appointees. So best to have a Democrat, but even better to have someone that basically is a puppet for Obama. The Marxist, who has appointed all kinds of Marxists in his regime. Okay? That's a fact, not hyperbole. All right, regarding them being Marxists. All right, now, so anyway, the big moment regarding Biden was his gaffe, or rather his stumbling at 9:11 p.m., and it clearly pointed to his dementia, and dementia hints at demons. The word dementia hints at demons, and what I am saying here is that the demons are going to be taking control of people's brains after the things that are inside the people are activated with the 5G frequencies. That's the whole setup. That's why they took the mark of the Antichrist. It is so that their brains can be taken control of by demons. This dementia incident involving Biden's brain was a prophetic sign that is pointing to the coming demonic possession of people, especially on the left, through demons can take control of their brains, making them, in a way, zombies, which is why the Lord is using zombie symbolism in his signs to point to this too. And what do zombies crave? Brains. They crave eating brains. It's because the demons are going to be possessing people through people's brains, and the vibrations that will be induced with the 5G frequencies. The prophetic moment of the debate with trumpet, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs, was at 9:11 p.m. This was exactly 4 times 400 days, which is also 4 years, 4 months, and 4 times 4 days, after Trumpet's Oval Office speech on the CVD disease on March 11th, 2020, that ended precisely at 9:11 p.m., which was exactly 222 months after 9/11. The number 22 in God's signs is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in Ezekiel in the Bible, and it would have been a Tav mark. The Tav letter is the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last and 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. Also, on 9/11, God pointed to George Washington, which is explained in other videos, and George Washington was born on the date 222. Because at the founding of the nation, after his first inauguration, he went into Trinity Chapel at Ground Zero, the only building to have survived the falling debris without any damage at all to the building, and that's why today the Trinity Chapel is nicknamed the Miracle Chapel. In this chapel, Washington consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings, which it did temporarily on 9/11 in 2001, which is why 222 months later was the CVD day when Trump's Oval Office speech, I should say Trumpet's Oval Office speech, as in trumpeting the CVD disease, ended precisely at 9:11 p.m., 4 years and 4 days times 4 times 4 days, 4 years, 4 months, and 4 times 4 days, which is also the equivalent of 4 times 400 days before the big moment in the Trumpet debate, in which the Trojan horse made a gaffe at 9:11 p.m. because he is about to step down, making way for the Antichrist, the 44th president. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.